I finished my I-cord bind off and now I'm ready to deal with these ends. We're going to leave these long ends alone for now. So those long ends from section 1, just don't do anything with them. But the shorter ones, all the ones you broke in other sections, we can go ahead and tuck them in. So just stick them through a tapestry needle, and I just whip stitch my ends on the wrong side. So I just find some purl bumps and whip stitch them 6 or 7 times, whip them through the stitches, pull it through, and I'm done. These are all my yarn tails on the wrong side from when I knitted my new colors in. So when I grabbed a new color and I knitted the new strand into that new row, they're just hanging out on the wrong side, so I just snip them, leaving like a centimeter or something on the wrong side. So yeah, just find all those tails that were knitted into your rows and just cut them off. They don't need to be woven in because they're already nestled into the rows. Snip them off. Get all those little yarn tails, throw them outside, give them to a bird. They can like make a nest out of them, or I put the yarn tails in my pocket. I make like knots of yarn tails in my pockets, and then you can twirl them when you're in uncomfortable social situations. Little yarn therapy in your pocket. So that's how it looks, nice and tidy. I'm ready to deal with those long ends from section 1. So if you have those long yarn tails, they'll be hanging out on the wrong side. So go ahead and grab a couple strands, 1 or 2 strands that are next to each other, put them through a tapestry needle, and we're going to poke them through so that they're on the right side now. So we're going to grab each tail, each strand of yarn. Those 2 strands are right next to each other. So I'm going to take both of them through a tapestry needle and poke them through the right side. There we go. So we're just transferring all those long strands from the wrong side to the right side. I pulled all those long yarn tails forward to the right side, and now I'm going to get a cluster of new yarn. So get like 4 or 5 strands of yarn and make it super, super long so that when you fold those strands of yarn in half, they reach the length, they follow the length of section 1, and they hang down like 10 to 12 inches. So just make a super, super long strand of yarn, so when you fold it in half, it hangs all the way down section 1, and then some. Poke the loop through a tapestry needle, and then you're gonna poke it through this sweet spot where section 4, 2, and 1, where all those sections converge, that little intersection. Take your loop and pull the long tail through to make a tidy little knot right there. This is going to be the base, the foundation for this cool party braid trick we're about to do. Here's that little loop at the intersection, and I divided those new strands into 3 groups, 3 equal groups, maybe 2 or 3 strands each, and then anchor that intersection. So place a book on it, put something heavy on it, or just squeeze it between your knees. Give it a little foundation so that it has some sturdiness there. And then begin to braid. Braid those groups of 3. And as you reach a new long strand of yarn, a new long tail, just introduce it to one of your groups. And I'll grab, there we go, just grab it to the right group, and then continue to braid. Pull those tails through. Don't let it get too tangled. So yeah, every few braids, do a little housekeeping, pull the tails through. Grab a new strand and introduce it into the braid. So as you braid and reach a new long tail, they'll start getting thicker. The braid will start growing and becoming a heftier size. And also don't make it too tight. You want it to have a little bit of stretch. So as you braid, do a test and make sure that it still will stretch so when you block it, it doesn't pucker or get too tight. But make your way down, introducing the new strands of yarn, making a thicker and thicker braid. I'm reaching the end of my braid, so they're getting quite thick, but continue to make your way down all the way to the corner. I'm at the corner and I finished braiding, so take all the strands of yarn And we're just going to make a temporary loop, a temporary knot, just to keep it out of the way for now. So go ahead and pull all those strands through and just make a loose little knot right there. Here's my complete braid all the way down the mesh, my temporary knot, but it's a little loose. So those yarn tails, there's little gaps in between those spaces, and we're gonna make that tidy, make that super clean. So to do that, we're gonna need a new strand of yarn through a tapestry needle, and make sure that single strand of yarn is like twice the length of the braid. Just make it really long, because we're gonna whip stitch down the braid. Start at the top, and just poke the needle through the base fabric, and then dive into the braid. You can just dive into the center of the braid and into the fabric to whip a little stitch through, and continue to do that along the length of the braid. You can go up through the fabric, and then up through the center of the braid, and then go down into the braid and the fabric. I'm going down into the little seed stitch edging. So you're just anchoring the braid, going up and then back down. Always making sure you get that braid and some seed stitch so that it lays nice and flat. I finished whip stitching all the way down the braid, and there are the little strands that unite the braid to the seed stitch that makes it lay just super flat so there aren't as many gaps. Nice and tidy.